She wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The human stood inside the great chamber of the alien council. The walls around him glowed with strange silver light. Tall figures moved in silence, their eyes fixed on him as if he was already judged. He felt like a prisoner, even though no chains were on his hands. They told him he had been chosen, not for war, not for trade, but for something far older, a binding tradition of their people. The words echoed in his mind. You will not leave this world until the trial is done. He had faced battles before, but this silence was heavier than any battlefield. Then she entered, the young alien girl, her eyes wide and full of hunger. She looked almost human, but not fully. Her skin shimmered faint blue, and her hair moved as if it carried its own breeze. She stepped close, too close, whispering, You are mine, human. They chose you for me. Her voice trembled with desire, not with love, and he felt the weight of something dangerous in her words. Before he could answer, the chamber doors opened again, and another figure stepped inside, tall, sharp, powerful. The air seemed to bend around her. The young girl froze, her voice vanished, and even the council lowered their eyes. This was her mother, the one everyone feared. The human's chest tightened as he looked at her. She was no ordinary figure. Her movements were calm yet heavy with control. She wore armor of black and silver, each piece marked with scars of past battles. She looked at him with eyes that carried no softness, only truth. He felt as if she could see through his soul. The daughter tried to speak again, her tone high and desperate. Mother, he is mine. He was chosen for me. But the woman raised her hand and silence fell over the hall. Her voice came low but sharp as a blade. No, child. He was never chosen for you. He was chosen for the test. The human tried to understand, his mind turning fast. What test? Why him? What was the truth behind these strange words? He had come as a soldier, an envoy, not as a lover, but now it seemed something much older and far more dangerous was waiting. The young girl clung to his arm, her grip weak but desperate. Please, you will choose me. I will give you everything. Her voice cracked as if she already knew the answer. Her mother stepped forward, her eyes burning brighter than the silver light around them. She spoke again, her words calm, powerful, final. Human, listen well. My daughter thinks she is ready, but she is not. She thinks desire is strength, but strength is forged in fire and blood. You will not stand with her. You will stand with me. Gasps filled the council hall. Whispers spread like wind through dry leaves. The young girl cried out, No, mother, you cannot take him. But the woman did not look at her. She only stared at him, waiting for his answer. The human's throat felt dry. He had faced alien beasts, soldiers, even death. But the way this woman stood before him made every battle seem small. He did not speak, because he knew no words could break the silence she had created. The council leader finally rose, his tall frame covered in golden light, his voice deep and old. The trial begins tonight. The human will face the test, and only the unstoppable shall remain. The daughter reached for him again, her tears glowing faint on her strange skin. Please, choose me. Do not let her take you. But he could not move, his eyes locked on the mother, her presence too heavy, too sharp, too unshakable. In that moment he understood something. He was not caught between two women. He was caught between two worlds. One was fragile desire, the other was unstoppable power. One was begging, the other was commanding, and the council wanted to see which fought. Worse, he would survive. As the doors closed, the mother's last words cut into the silence like thunder. You are not here for her, human. You are here for me. And in his heart, he already knew the trial had begun. The daughter's desire. She wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The chamber was still heavy with silence when the human was led away. The echoes of the mother's words still burned inside his chest, yet behind him he could feel the eyes of the young daughter, desperate, broken, unwilling to let him go. She followed him into the corridor, her steps quick, her hands shaking. She whispered in a sharp tone, Do not believe her. She only wants to control you. She has taken everything from me. She will not take you too." Her voice carried a trembling mix of anger and pleading. The human looked at her. Her face was soft, her skin glowing faintly with that strange alien light. She looked young, fragile, but her eyes burned with fire, not the fire of strength, but the fire of obsession. He could not answer her words, because he had seen the truth in her mother's eyes. She stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "I begged the council for this trial. I begged them to bring a human. They told me you would be mine. They promised. Do not let her break it. Do not let her take you from me." Her voice cracked as if her whole life was tied to his answer. The guards shifted uncomfortably, their heads bowed low. None dared to speak against her, but none dared to support her either. The weight of her mother's shadow stretched even here, in this quiet hall. The human felt torn. He had faced hunger, pain, battles in the dark, but he had never been placed between two forces like this. The daughter's hand touched his arm again, soft and trembling. "I will give you loyalty. I will give you love. I will give you everything you want. I only need you to choose me." Her voice echoed down the hall, but in the distance another sound began to rise, the heavy steps of her mother, slow and certain, every step like a drumbeat in the human's chest. The daughter froze, her hand still on his arm, her eyes wide with fear. The mother appeared, her presence stronger than any wall, her gaze sharp as blades. She did not speak at first, only stood there, letting the silence crush everything around her. The daughter's lips trembled, but no words came out. At last the mother spoke, her voice low but unshakable. "Child, you confuse desire with strength. You think he is yours because you want him, but you have not earned him. You have not survived fire. You have not carried blood on your hands." The daughter shook her head violently, her tears falling. "No, you only want to take him because you cannot let me have anything. You took father. You took the council's respect. Now you will take him too." Her voice broke into a scream, her pain twisting into rage. The mother's expression did not change. Her eyes never moved from the human. "He does not belong to you, nor to me. He belongs to the trial, and the trial will show who is unstoppable." The daughter's breath came fast, her body shaking. She turned to the human once more, whispering, almost begging now, "Please, do not listen. I am enough. I am young. I will learn. I will fight for you. Just choose me." The human felt the walls closing in, the air thick with tension. He could see the truth clearer with every passing moment. The daughter's desire was strong, but it was shallow. It came from longing, from hunger, not from wisdom. The mother's strength was not just power, it was control. It was patience. It was battle-scarred truth. And then the council bells rang, deep and ancient, shaking the hall. The guards straightened. The trial was beginning. No more words could change what was coming. The daughter fell to her knees, her voice breaking. "If you go with her, you will never come back to me." The human stood frozen, caught between her desperation and the storm of power walking steadily beside him. The mother placed her hand on his shoulder, her grip strong, steady, unyielding, and she spoke her final words for the night. "Come, human, the fire waits, and only one of us will walk out as the true choice." The daughter's sobs followed them as the doors closed, her cries mixing with the sound of the ancient bells. And in that moment, the human understood. The trial was not just a test of survival, it was a test of hearts, of loyalty, of desire against discipline. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this would break one of them, forever. The test begins. She wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The ancient bells still echoed as the humans stepped into the trial grounds. The air was thick and heavy. The ground beneath his boots was strange, alive. It shifted as if it breathed. He felt like he had stepped into another world hidden inside theirs. The council stood above on high platforms of shining stone, their eyes glowing as they watched from the shadows. They did not speak. They only judged, and their silence was heavier than words. Beside him stood the mother, tall, steady, her armor marked with the scars of battles long past. Her presence alone was stronger than the walls around them. She said nothing to him, but her silence spoke louder than 1,000 voices. At the edge of the grounds, the daughter appeared, not allowed to enter, yet her cries still reached him. "Please, survive with me, not with her." Her words cut through the heavy air, but no one answered. The guards pushed her back, and the council gave no mercy to her pleading. The human tried to understand the place. The ground opened in cracks. Glowing rivers of blue light ran below the surface. Strange plants twisted upward. Some looked alive. Some looked like traps waiting for a single step. The air shimmered with heat, though no fire burned. Then the voice of the council leader thundered across the chamber. The trial BC. "Eggins now, survive the first night, and you will prove your worth." The human gripped the weapon they had given him, a long spear of black stone, heavier than steel but sharp as lightning. He had fought with rifles and blades before, but this weapon felt like it carried its own hunger. The mother drew her weapon too, a long curved blade glowing faint red. The moment it left its sheath, the air trembled. Even the ground seemed to bow beneath her. She turned to him at last, her voice low but sharp. "Stay close to me, human, or you will not live past the first hour." They stepped forward into the shifting ground. The air around them grew darker, shadows stretched long and strange, and then came the sound, not of wind, not of water, but of something breathing, heavy, hungry, waiting. The human's heart pounded. The daughter's words still echoed in his mind, but there was no time for doubt now. From the shadows a creature rose, massive, 4 legs like burning stone, eyes glowing green fire, its body covered in scales that dripped with smoke. The daughter screamed from the edge, "You cannot face it, run!" But the mother stepped forward without fear, her blade raised, her voice calm. "Do not run, human. Stand, fight, learn what it means to face the unstoppable." The beast roared, the ground split, blue fire poured from the cracks. The human felt his knees weaken, his grip on the spear almost slip. But the mother did not hesitate. She moved faster than his eyes could follow. The first strike of her blade cut deep into the beast's leg. The air exploded with fire and smoke. The human tried to steady himself, his mind screaming to move, to act. He thrust his spear forward as the beast lunged. The stone tip cut across its burning skin. The creature shrieked, the sound echoing like thunder through the trial grounds. The mother's voice cut through the chaos. "Good, you are not weak, but Remy. Ember, this is only the beginning." The human breathed hard, his chest tight. The beast circled, smoke rising from its wounds. He realized this was not a fight for victory. It was a fight for survival. The council did not care who he chose. They cared if he could endure, if he could walk beside power without breaking. The daughter's sobs carried faintly. "She will kill you. She kills everything she touches." But her words could not reach him now. The fire, the beast, the unstoppable presence of the mother beside him drowned out everything else. The mother raised her blade once more, her eyes sharp as steel, her voice calm in the storm. "Watch closely, human. This is what it means to be chosen. This is what it means to survive." The beast roared again. The ground shook, and in that moment the human knew. The trial had only just begun, and the night ahead would be long. Survival and secrets. She wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The beast's roar faded into silence. Its massive body crumbled into smoke. The trial grounds trembled and then grew quiet again. The human stood with sweat on his skin, his hands shaking, the spear still heavy in his grip. Beside him the mother stood steady, her blade glowing faint red with the heat of the strike. Her chest rose with calm breaths. No fear, no weakness. Her eyes sharp as if she had not fought but only walked through another lesson. The human looked at her, wondering what kind of life could shape someone into this unstoppable figure. She had faced the creature as if it were nothing, as if its fire and size were only shadows. The daughter's cries still came faintly from beyond the walls. "You see, she will not stop. She will keep taking. She always wins. She does not care about you." Her voice trembled with rage and sorrow. The human wanted to answer, but the mother spoke first, her voice low, carrying more weight than the stone walls around them. Do not waste your strength on her words. She does not understand yet. She thinks love is enough, but love without strength is only chains. They walked deeper into the shifting ground. Strange lights flickered in the air. Plants twisted like serpents. The human felt every step heavy, but the mother moved like a shadow, each movement precise, silent, unshakable. At one point they stopped beside a stream of glowing blue water. The human bent down, his throat dry, but the mother held her hand before him, her voice sharp. Do not drink. The water looks pure, but it will burn your veins until you scream. The human froze, realizing how easily he could have fallen. The mother knelt and pressed her hand to the ground. She whispered words in her language, low and sharp. The stream hissed, and creatures of smoke rose for a moment before vanishing. He stared, realizing she carried knowledge no one else could, scars of survival carved into her memory. This was why she was unstoppable, not only her blade, but her mind, her eyes, her patience. The silence between them grew heavy until the human finally asked, "Why me? Why am I here?" His voice cracked in the strange air. The mother's gaze turned toward him, her face calm, but her eyes carried storms. Because humans endure, you are not the strongest, you are not the fastest, but you break and then rise again. The council wants to see if even beside me you will stand or fall. Her words cut through him like a blade. He felt the weight of her truth. He had faced pain before, but standing beside her made him feel both small and alive. Then she lifted her arm, pulling back the armor from her wrist. Scars marked her skin, deep and long, each one carrying a story of battles he could not imagine. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. These are not marks of glory. They are reminders. Every life I saved, every life I lost, they live in me still. The human felt his chest tighten. He had thought of her only as powerful, but in her scars he saw something else, a burden heavier than any crown. The daughter's voice pierced again from the shadows. She hides behind scars, but she is empty. She will use you until you are nothing. Her sobs mixed with fury, her shadow struggling against the guards who held her back. The mother's eyes did not move. She spoke to him as if the daughter's voice did not exist. Remember this, human. Desire can blind you, but scars teach you. Pain carves the truth. If you wish to survive, you must learn not only to fight, but to see. The human lowered his spear for a moment, staring at her, feeling both fear and respect. He knew then that this trial was not only about strength, it was about knowledge, about discipline, about carrying pain without breaking. The ground shook again, a new sound rising from the distance. The air shifted and the council's voice boomed. The first night is not yet over. Face what comes and prove your path. The mother turned to him, her eyes steady, her blade ready, her voice calm. Stay close, human. The secrets of this trial will either kill you or make you worthy. And as the ground split open once more, the human understood. He was not only fighting to survive the night, he was walking through the hidden truths of a woman who had become unstoppable. The turning point. She wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The night deepened in the trial grounds. The shadows stretched long and alive. The human felt the weight of every breath as if the air itself pressed against his chest. Yet the mother walked forward with steady steps, unshaken, her blade glowing faint in the dark. They had fought the beast. They had walked through traps and burning air. But now the silence carried a new danger, not of claws or fire, but of truth waiting to break open. The human looked at her scars again, the way they ran across her skin like rivers carved by pain. He felt Tians rising in his throat, questions of who she was before this trial, but before he could speak, she turned her head slightly and whispered, "Do not think of me as a woman. Think of me as the weight of battles you have not yet seen." Her voice was calm, yet heavy, like stone on his shoulders. He understood she carried more than strength, she carried history. From the edge of the trial grounds, the daughter's voice came again, sharp with jealousy. "She shows you scars to make you pity her, but they are nothing. I can give you joy, I can give you what she never can." Her words cracked in the dark like glass breaking. The human wanted to answer, but the mother raised her hand. "Silence is stronger than lies," she said, her eyes still fixed forward. Then the ground shifted once more. Creatures of smoke slithered out, smaller than the beast before, but faster, their eyes glowing red. They circled in silence, waiting for the right moment. The human raised his spear, but the mother did not move. Instead, she closed her eyes, her breath steady. Then she whispered in her own language. The creatures froze, their bodies trembling. The human watched in shock as they turned away, sliding back into the ground, vanishing like shadows in wind. He stared at her, unable to speak. She opened her eyes and said, "Strength is not always in the blade. Sometimes it is in the voice that commands without shouting." The daughter's scream cut across the silence. "She tricks you. She tricks everyone. She will use her wisdom to chain you forever." Her voice broke into sobs, her figure shaking against the guards who held her back. The human's heart ached, torn between the daughter's desperate cries and the mother's unshakable presence. He had never stood between two forces so opposite, yet both pulling him with equal weight. The mother finally stopped walking, turning toward him, her eyes sharp but softer now. "Human, you carry doubt. I see it, I feel it. Doubt is not weakness, but if you let it rule you, it will break you. Tell me, do you think you can stand beside me when the final trial comes?" The human's mouth went dry. He wanted to speak, but no words came. The silence stretched until the council's bells rang again, shaking the ground. From the shadows, the council leader's voice thundered. "The path grows darker. The trial moves forward. The human must choose not with words, but with his steps." The mother's gaze stayed locked on him, waiting. The daughter's sobs echoed from afar. And in that moment, the human realized no one could guide him. His choice was his alone. But before he could take a step, the air cracked with a new sound. Not from the ground, not from the council, but from the edge of the trial grounds. The daughter had broken free of the guards, her figure running into the firelit path, her face burning with tears and fury. She screamed, "If you will not choose me, then I will make you." Her hands glowing with stolen fire, her body trembling with reckless power. The mother's eyes sharpened like steel, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Child, do not do this." But the daughter did not stop. Her fire growing wild, uncontrolled. The human stood frozen, the air between mother and daughter heavy with danger. He knew at that moment the trial was no longer about survival against beasts. It was about survival against betrayal. And as the daughter's power burst across the ground, splitting the air with flame, the human understood. The turning point had come, and someone would break before the night was done. The final trial. She wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The flames burst across the trial grounds. The daughter's stolen power lit the night like a storm. The air shook, the ground split, shadows scattered as fire roared higher than the walls. The human raised his arm against the heat, his chest tight with fear. The daughter stood in the center, her hands glowing, her eyes wild with tears. "And rage. If you will not choose me, then I will burn this trial to ash." Her voice cracked, filled with both desperation and fury. The council shouted from above, their voices sharp. "This is forbidden." But she did not listen. Her pain was stronger than their law, her longing stronger than their judgment. The mother stepped forward, her blade in hand, but her eyes heavy with sorrow. "Child, you do not understand. This power is not yours to hold. It will break you. It will destroy everything you touch." The daughter screamed, her voice sharp as fire. "Then let it destroy, let it burn. I will not lose again, not to you." The human's heart pounded, trapped between them. The ground cracked open, fire spilling like rivers. Creatures of smoke rose from the flames, drawn to the chaos, their eyes hungry, their bodies shifting like shadows with teeth. The council's bells rang once more, louder than ever. The leader's voice thundered, "The final trial has begun, human. Survive this night, and your choice will be sealed." The daughter's fire lashed out, striking at the creatures. But the flames turned wild, cutting through stone and sky. The beasts roared, feeding on the chaos. The human raised his spear, fear gripping him. The mother moved with unshakable grace, her blade cutting the shadows apart, each strike perfect, each step measured, but the sorrow in her eyes grew heavier. Her own daughter now stood as both victim and enemy. The human stumbled as one of the creatures lunged at him, its teeth burning green. He thrust his spear forward, striking true. The beast shrieked, smoke exploding into the air. His arms shook, his chest burned. But he stood. The mother's voice cut through the storm. "Hold your ground, human. Do not fall to fear." The daughter's fire flared again, wild and broken, her voice sharp. "Why do you fight beside her? She is cold, she is empty. I am the one who feels. I am the one who loves you." The human's breath shook, his heart torn, but he saw the truth in her eyes. The fire had consumed her reason, her love twisted into obsession, her power into destruction. The mother moved closer, blocking the flames with her own body, her armor glowing red with heat, her voice heavy but steady. "I never wished to fight you, child, but if you threaten him, if you threaten the trial, then I must." The daughter screamed, her flames bursting outward, striking both mother and human. The ground shook, the council's walls cracked, the night filled with fire and smoke. Through the flames, the human saw the mother rise, her body scorched, her blade glowing brighter than ever, unstoppable. Her voice cut through the chaos like thunder. "I will not fall, not to beasts, not to fire, not even to my own blood." She struck, her blade slicing through the shadows, her movements a storm of control and power. The creatures fell one by one, smoke scattering into the dark. The human fought beside her, his spear thrusting, his body shaking but refusing to break. He felt his strength rise not from himself, but from the storm of will beside him. The daughter's flames weakened, her body trembling, the stolen power burning her from within. She fell to her knees, her tears glowing in the firelight. Why? Why must you always win? The mother stood above her, blade raised, but her eyes full of sorrow. She lowered it slowly, her voice quiet but strong. "Because I must, because if I fall, everything falls. That is what it means to carry strength." The council's bells rang again, louder, final. The leader's voice thundered. "The trial ends. Only the unstoppable remain." The daughter collapsed, the flames around her fading into smoke. The ground stilled. Silence spread heavy across the trial grounds. The human stood, his chest heaving, his body marked with smoke and sweat. He looked at the mother, her armor scorched, her blade dim, but her presence still unshakable, unstoppable. In that silence he understood. The final trial was not just about beasts or fire, it was about choice, about seeing who could endure, who could carry scars and still rise. And in his heart, he knew the choice had already been made. The resolution, she wanted me for herself, but her mother was the real test, and she was unstoppable. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The trial grounds lay in silence. Smoke curled upward into the dark sky. The glowing cracks in the earth dimmed one by one. The beasts were gone. The fire had died. But the weight of what happened lingered heavy in the air. The human stood with his spear lowered, his arms trembling from battle. Sweat and ash covered his face. His chest rose and fell with every hard breath. Yet he was alive, alive because he had stood beside her. The mother walked slowly through the silence, her armor scorched, her blade dull from endless strikes. Yet her steps were steady, her eyes unbroken. She was scarred, she was burned, but she was still unshakable, still unstoppable. At the center of the broken ground lay the daughter, her body weak, the fire that once roared now only smoke around her hands, her eyes filled with tears. She looked small, fragile, no longer a rival but a child lost in her own storm. She whispered, voice faint as wind, "Why must you always take everything? Why must you always stand while I fall?" The mother knelt before her voice soft for the first time, "Because strength is not given, it is earned. I did not take it from you. I carried it when no one else could. One day you may understand." The daughter closed her eyes, her tears glowing against her skin, her voice cracked. "I only wanted to be seen." The mother touched her shoulder, not with power, but with sorrow. You were seen, child, even when you thought you were not. But the trial was never about wanting. It was about surviving. The human's chest tightened, watching them. The council bells rang above, their deep sound echoing like thunder. The leader's voice rose heavy and final. The trial is complete. The beasts have fallen. The flames have ended. The unstoppable stands before us. The human has endured. The bond is sealed. The council bowed their heads, their judgment final, the chamber of trial filled with ancient light. The human looked at the mother, her scars, her strength, her silence, and he understood the truth. He had not survived because of his blade alone. He had survived because of her, because she carried storms and yet never broke. She turned her eyes toward him, calm but sharp. You stood when others would have fallen. You saw what must be seen. You learned that desire is not enough. Respect is not enough. Survival comes from walking beside strength that will not bend. Her words struck deep, and he nodded, his voice low but steady. I understand. The daughter let out one last sob, her voice fading. He was mine. He was promised. But no one answered. The council gave no reply. The mother gave no reply. The truth was already carved into the trial's end. The mother rose, her figure tall against the broken sky. She raised her blade once more, not to strike but to mark the end. Her voice echoed across the silent grounds. I remain because I will never fall. Not to beasts, not to fire, not to sorrow. I am unstoppable. The human felt his chest fill with something he could not name. Fear, respect, awe, all mixed into one. He knew he had been chosen not to take sides, but to witness, to stand beside, the unstoppable, and learn what it meant to endure. The bells rang one final time, the trial grounds sealed in silence, the fire gone, the smoke fading, the council watching with eyes that no longer judged but accepted. The human walked forward, standing beside the mother, and for the first time he did not feel small. He did not feel like prey. He felt part of something greater. The daughter's cries faded into the distance, her figure carried away by the guards, her tears falling like broken stars. The mother looked at him one last time, her voice low, steady, final. Remember this night, human. Remember the fire, the beasts, the betrayal, the scars, because this is the truth of strength. It is not about who wants, it is about who endures. And as the chamber doors closed, the human whispered in his heart, she was unstoppable, not because she desired me, not because she claimed me, but because she carried scars, fought storms, and still stood unbroken. And with that truth, the trial ended. But its weight would never leave him. The end. Enjoyed the story? Like it and subscribe for more.